Good morning and welcome to Unity of Modesto. We're really delighted that you're here with us this morning. We're going to start off with a song, and it's in your hymnal if you'd like to sing along with us. It's on page 179, Magic Penny. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. For love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. We're going to do it again. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. For love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more.
Yay! Thank you. That really supports our focus this morning on prosperity. We're going to be singing the Lord's Prayer this morning, and it's out of the hymnal.
On page 70, if you want to sing along.
Page 70, both verses.
Yes.
All righty.
Our Heavenly Father, who in love abideth, we worship Thee, we praise Thy holy name. Teach us Thy children evermore to love Thee. Thy will be done in earth as heaven today. Teach us Thy children evermore to love Thee. Thy will be done in earth as heaven today. Oh, give us grace to meet the coming morrow. Forgive our debts as others we forgive. Thou leavest not Thy children in temptation, and from all evil Thou deliverest us. Thine is the kingdom, Thine the power and glory, world without end, forevermore. Amen.
Good morning. I knew I brought the announcements. Help, where are they? It's good to see you here, even when your smiles are sort of hidden behind a mask. You know, I can see it in the crinkle of your eyes. You know. We're looking forward to being more and more open this summer. Let's hold the vision of being able to get together in Fellowship Hall, which is going to get spruced up. And our goal right at the moment is to aim for a 4th of July potluck. We'll think of something, barbecue, whatever. It should be beautiful. We can open up doors, have lots of fresh air going through, and we're just going to know that by that point in time, so many people will have had their shots, and we're going to be much healthier church family. So we're going to aim for that. We'll let you know as plans develop. Our food pantry has had more than usual requests as we work through the effects of COVID, the economic effects. So if any of you can assist, please, we have a box in the back where you can drop off some non-perishable goods, please, no eggs. And you can drop things off at the office too. There's 2 days a week when our office is open, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10:30 to 12:30. Jackie is there and she can take things in. She can also take your prayer requests, and we support you in prayer 7 days a week, 365 days a year, as does Silent Unity. You can put your request into us, and then if you want a little more support and want to talk to somebody, you can always call Silent Unity, and their number is in the Daily Word. And there's a few extra Daily Words on the table back there if someone needs those. You can also drop off your donations, your tithe, or you can send that via if you're really clever, you can send it over the computer. If you're like me, you write a check and carry it in physically, okay? But whichever, we're here to accept your requests, your donations, and we're here to support you. Daily Word this morning is about imagination, and that's a great thing to use when we're thinking about prosperity. The word is imagination, and the affirmation is, I imagine limitless possibilities. Boy, doesn't that open up a lot. In childhood, my imagination helped me see fascinating shapes and wondrous creatures in cloud formations. Picking up a twig, I might have pretended I held a wand that could give me magical powers. An ordinary packing box could become a vessel to sail on or under the seas, an aircraft to fly higher than mountains, or even a spaceship I could fly to explore the stars. Much more than whimsy, imagination is a potent spiritual tool. I use my imagination with intention to give shape to my dreams and goals. Although my childhood may be a memory, I'm grateful that I can still use my imagination to create the life of my dreams as I envision possibilities beyond the reality that I know and the world that I see. And our quote from the Bible today is from Luke 10:24. For I tell you that many prophets and kings desired to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. And what that tells us is that even the famous and the powerful may not have the imagination that you possess. And now our prayer box is in the back, and as I mentioned, you can submit your prayers at the church office a couple days a week, or you can send them in via email, or you can drop them in the back. And what we know is that prayer is powerful. That's one of the basic principles that Unity Church was founded on, because the Fillmores experienced the power of prayer. It wasn't just, oh, la-dee-da, nice talk about it. It was pray and see the physical results in front of us. So let's know together right now that every request for prayer in the prayer box or in our minds and hearts has been already acted on. because we know that there is one power, one presence, one love, one God in and through all that works every second and powerfully and knowingly. God knows what the best and the highest is. So when we pray, we let go, and we know that it is done. People and experiences, events are healed physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, financially. The healing is done, and we are moving forward towards it in real lifetime. And for this inexhaustible supply of everything we need, we are so very thankful. And so it is. Amen.
And now we're preparing for meditation. The love in me beholds the love in you. The joy in me beholds the joy in you. The light in me beholds the light in you. We are one in the peace of the Lord. The love in me beholds the love in you. The joy in me beholds the joy in you. The light in me beholds the light in you. We are one in the peace of the Lord. We are one in the peace of the Lord.
And now let's relax, sit comfortably, put your feet flat on the floor, and feel that you are supported by that chair or couch, whatever you're sitting in. And let us know that there is only that one source. And let's think of that source this morning as an enormous reservoir that has everything we need. We could picture ourselves sitting beside a big, beautiful source of water. And it's peaceful. It's deep. It's never ending. It's inexhaustible. And this beautiful, calming, peaceful area of water has lots of outlets. Let us notice that there are little creeks, streams, rivers, pipelines, canals. The one source has many, many, many ways of giving. And we can choose wherever we place ourselves. We are recipients of the good. Let us feel that we are just relaxing and enjoying, receiving the good. Let us feel ourselves filled with thanksgiving and gratitude, knowing that the giving from that source never ends and becomes whatever we need. Feel ourselves filled and grateful. And then we bring ourselves back here and we retain that feeling of being full of God, full of good, full of whatever, whether we know what it is or not. We have everything we need in our lives. And now we slowly open our eyes and wake up and bring ourselves back to the here and now. I'm speaking this morning on Prosperity's 10 Commandments. We're a society and a culture that seems to like numbered lists. We have 7 habits for highly effective people. We have the 10 most wanted. We have lists for sports. So I'm going to share 10 commandments for prosperity, and these are based on the original 10 commandments from the Bible. I found these in an older book. I can't say a really old book because it's a couple years younger than I am. And it was by Georgiana Tree West. It was published by Unity, but I don't know if it's still in print. Each commandment has an affirmation, and I would like you to focus on the affirmations. So I have a handout that I'll pass around that has the 10 affirmations after I'm finished speaking, because as Paul used to say, if I hand out something for you to read, you'll just be sitting there reading and you aren't listening to me. So I'll hand that out afterwards. The first prosperity commandment is, thou shalt look to no other source but God for thy supply, with a corresponding affirmation of, I look only to God for my prosperity. This struck me as a perfect correlation to thou shalt have no other gods before me. And I remember studying that the main message of Moses was to teach people that there was only one God. Before Moses started preaching his message, so many religions worshiped many gods. And before we look at that practice as being foolish or ignorant, we have to remember the times. A few thousand years ago, people did not have the benefits of scientific discovery that we have. When we talk about one life force, one God, one energy, it makes sense to us because we've learned about atoms and molecules and the tinier particles of matter, and science is even right now finding another one. We know that the energy that holds together the atoms in a plant, a fish, a bird, a human being, and even a rock is the same energy. So it makes sense to us that life itself, God itself, is the same in all. We not only have a kinship to all that exists, but we understand that all of it, everything that exists, is an expression of God or life energy, whatever phrase we want to use. So we can understand that there's one God, one energy, one source for all life. This is the first and foundation for any lists or commandments that we want to focus on. Knowing there's only one source with many channels or conduits can carry us through challenges. I know what it's like to be told that the company I'm working for is being purchased by another larger company and my job is being phased out. Don't you love that terminology? It's like they're rubbing you out with an eraser, you know. And I know what it's like to work for a government agency that's facing layoffs. I've also experienced having a spouse lose a job to such changes. Our first reaction is so often a human one. What am I going to do? So I learned years ago to immediately, or at least as fast as I could reason with myself, to remember that God is my source, the only source. And this job is just one of many channels or conduits. I will picture in my mind, like we did in our meditation this morning, a very large and beautiful reservoir of water with channels, pipes, spillways, canals, all going in different directions, and tell myself that when this pipe stops flowing, I will find another one. Then we remind ourselves that we have the one source. It can't dry up or quit giving to us. And then we can relax. Letting go of anxieties and worries allows us to think creatively to find those other channels and retain the energy we need to look for a different job or sell possessions or make changes to our living conditions to adapt to that different pipeline. We're also more relaxed to be able to pray, believing that we are supplied with all we need. We might want to put this first commandment on a little post-it note and stick it on the TV to counteract that all is gloom and doom of the economic reports from the media. The second prosperity commandment is, thou shalt make no mental images of lack, with a simple affirmation of, I make no mental images of lack. I think of this as avoiding Chicken Little behavior, avoiding the acceptance of every idea of poverty, fear, limitation, worry, or doubt. These are false idols that we don't want to worship. When we think of avoiding false gods, we've all heard we don't want to worship material things. But have we considered the false worship of worry? When we focus on a worry, when we're saying constantly, I'm worried about the Middle East, or I'm afraid war is breaking out again, and constantly watch those images on TV, it can turn into a form of worship. And we're giving it negative power. When the TV news talks of drought or flood in the Midwest that affects the crops, I wonder how many companies just want to scare us into paying higher prices. With climate changes, which may be long-term, one area is becoming drier and another wetter. So perhaps crops can be changed to accommodate the weather. I'm not suggesting that we close our eyes to reality. I just don't want us to wring our hands and cement those images of lack in our minds. We can turn and look for alternatives. The third prosperity commandment is, thou shalt not speak the word of lack or limitation, with our affirmation being, I speak no word of limitation. This is telling us to put a sock in it when we start to mouth off negativity. The third commandment tells us to not take the name of God in vain and forces us to look way beyond just cussing. God is good, and anything that goes against good goes against God. When we complain, whine, repeat gossip, put down people, companies, religious groups, and yes, even political parties, that is putting us into poverty thoughts, poverty words. These words of lack, limitation, criticism are like boulders in those pipes of flowing good. Even if we think our words are little, they're just baby boulders. They're just a little gravel or sand. They will slow down the flow and eventually clog the pipeline. I know from real-world experience that employees with negative words and negative attitudes were passed over for promotions. and put at the top of the list for layoffs. Our words are powerful, and they create our ideas that move into form. Don't fall into thinking, oh, they're only words. They reflect us. And what do we want representing us? What do we want to experience? What images do we want to continually impress on our minds and give power to? Knowing that thoughts and words become things, let's speak words of abundance and alternative choices and avoid lack and not enough. Speaking words of truth doesn't necessarily mean talking big to the world, but simply using words of quiet confidence and faith in God's never-failing bounty. We can remember the natural abundance of the world and avoid any limiting phrases. The fourth commandment is, thou shalt let go and let God do it. With our affirmation, I let go and let God work in my affairs. We've heard this advice so many times, usually connected to releasing stress and tension, or someone trying to get us to drop some control issues. But have we considered its prosperity effectiveness? Consider working at a job, whether physical or mental, and we've been going nonstop for 12, 14, 16 hours. How productive are we if we keep on working? When we stop, let go, take a break, or get some sleep, we come back refreshed, renewed, and are more productive. If we're being paid on a piecemeal basis, we'll earn more after we've rested because we're producing more. If we're working to create new or better ideas, we can think more clearly after a rest. And great new ideas are earning more money every day in technology. Our example in Jesus is how often he went apart to rest a while. He would teach or preach and then go off and rest, returning renewed. When we garden, we plant the seed and then we step back and let God work. How many times have we had something on our minds that we needed to work out, resolve, or adjust to, and we keep rehashing it in our minds? We couldn't make any progress. But when we let go, took a nap, did something relaxing, even sleep overnight, we were refreshed and quite often came up with solutions and the energy to tackle the situation from a new angle. When we remind ourselves that our life is a partnership with God, God works through us, and God is the inexhaustible supply of energy and ideas, we can relax and succeed. Accomplishing our current goal, whatever's in front of us right now, is the best experience of prosperity. The fifth prosperity commandment is, thou shalt deal honorably with God and with all human instruments through whom God's good is manifested for you. With the affirmation, I deal honorably with God and his/her pay clerks. Now this made me chuckle. Think of a new way of viewing each other. If we looked around and saw each other as fellow employees, all of us expressing the boss, would we feel more like family, fellow companions, all in the same boat? This commandment corresponds to honor thy father and mother, and this means everyone around us. The first 4 commandments deal with right action toward God, and the last 6 with right action toward our fellow human beings. In very simple real-world applications, if we treat fellow employees and our boss, as well as our clients, with respect and honor, we do well in business. Our customers who are treated well return and keep us prosperous. And in the larger world, when we treat neighbors, friends, groups of every sort with honor, our good returns to us. This is our basic law of attraction and a foundation for prosperity. To honor God is to render inner service and to acknowledge his presence with prayer. To render outer service, we share a portion of the supply that we have demonstrated in our lives. There's no surer way of acknowledging God as our source of supply than the actual giving back to God a portion of what we have received. Our giving back also demonstrates our understanding of the working of the law of increase in human affairs. We harvest and we reseed. We receive from our community, our church, our family, and we give back to all of those groups. And that means we live in the center of the magnificent flow. The sixth prosperity commandment is, thou shalt not take thy wealth out of circulation, corresponding to thou shalt not kill, with the affirmation of, I keep my wealth circulating wisely. What better way is there to kill the economy than to take all our money and bury it in the backyard or stuff it under our mattress? We save and invest as we can, yes, and we cheerfully pay our bills and make repairs, replace items when needed, and circulate our money. Our wealth of ideas need to be in circulation also. We need to contribute ideas for improving products and services and encourage bright young people to follow through on their new ideas. There was a really cute story on TV the other day about a little girl, and I think she was only about 5. And she wrote to one of the companies that make jeans, and she said, why don't little girls' jeans have pockets in the front? Little boys' jeans do. She says, I want to put things in my pockets. Company wrote her back, sent her a couple of pair of jeans with pockets in the front, and they're changing the way they're making jeans. We want new innovations and improvements, even when we feel they present challenges due to changes. I know how tempting it is to want to slow down computer technology, but the new innovations can be so fantastic. There was a TV story about how the iPad is really helping autistic children and adults by giving them the ability to communicate, enlarge their vocabulary, and to learn to look people in the eyes, which is a particular challenge for them. The parents of those children were blessing Steve Jobs and his genius innovations. It was exciting to see, and I was so glad that no one killed Steve's ideas. Think of to kill as destroy. Gossip or slander can kill a reputation, and if it's in business, it can stop prosperity. Negative thoughts and words are killers. We don't want them in our lives. Instead, we circulate healthy, positive thoughts, words of encouragement and love. If we want more vigor and vitality physically, we put to work the physical energy we have. If we want success and prosperity in our lives, we put to use what we have. We all have a wealth of ideas and the ability to encourage others, to say, good job, and mean it. We can give life with our approval and enthusiasm. The seventh prosperity commandment is, thou shalt not abase thy wealth to idle or evil uses, corresponding to thou shalt not commit adultery. To adulterate a substance, we need only to toss in a little bit of the wrong thing. A small amount of vinegar in your morning coffee or tea would get your attention. We can defile our wonderful minds with worries and anxieties, destroy the gift of our bodies with neglect, and cut off prosperity by using our wealth in a destructive way. We are to share our wealth intelligently, use our energies to achieve healthy goals. We don't pay people to destroy or commit criminal acts. That seems obvious. We also don't get caught up in greed or use our wealth to manipulate people or cut off their good. We want to be careful that we are not using our wealth to be idle to the point of not contributing to society. I could afford to just sit around a great deal of the time, and I'm tempted, believe me, to put my feet up a little more often than I do. But I want to do as much as I can as long as I'm physically able. How often have we observed wealthy people who still work years beyond their financial need to? They're prosperous because they're not misusing their wealth. Actors and actresses who work way beyond retirement years are contributing the wealth of their talents, not adulterating their lives with idleness. We all have something to contribute to avoid muddying up our lives with stagnation. Our affirmation is, I use my wealth for good purposes only. The 8th commandment is, thou shalt not seek something for nothing, corresponding to thou shalt not steal. Ralph Waldo Emerson addresses this point of this commandment when he says that under the law of compensation, stealing, getting something for nothing, is truly impossible. Life demands that we pay for what we get, and it's correspondingly true that we get what we pay for. The thief steals from himself. Our wealth consists of time, talents, heart, as well as money. If we try to steal money from others, we may pay in loss of health. Life is balanced. One of the most difficult things in life to understand is the apparently unjust distribution of riches. We see self-respecting, upright people trying to live constructive lives, and they're as poor as church mice. Or we observe wealthy people who seem to give nothing to life. The answer is that wealth is the outpicturing of a state of mind. A person with a poverty consciousness may work hard, but if they're filled with fear and a belief in lack, they experience their fears. Since nothing is ever lost, that person will at some point of their existence reap the benefits, especially when they free their mind of a poverty complex. And on the other hand, the supposedly useless wealthy person may have a money consciousness, and this is a balanced universe. They're experiencing their consciousness. The spiritual laws are always working, and wealth is experienced in many ways. A seemingly poor person may be wealthy in relationships, and a billionaire cannot buy a cure for a disease. I look at some people's lives and I know I'm only seeing one small part. And when life seems out of balance, I know better than to envy. How many young, talented, rich in money celebrities have we seen end their lives with an overdose? That's not prosperity. Life is balanced. And if we look at our own lives and we're not happy with what we're experiencing, we must ask ourselves, what are we putting into life? If we feel we can't afford to be charitable and we hate to pay our debts, we're withholding our generosity, and life will not be generous with us. We give in proportion, whether it be 10 cents, $10, or $10,000. And we love to pay our bills. That process circulates God as money in action. When I pay a bill, I'm delighted to be able to pay it. And I'm grateful that someone else makes the effort to supply the water, electricity, gasoline, or put food on the shelves. So all I have to do is walk down the grocery aisle and just pick and choose as I want to. Our affirmation is, I never strive to get something for nothing. The 9th prosperity commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness against the power of wealth, corresponding to thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. To bear false witness is to be untruthful, and any intent to deceive is a violation of this commandment. Exaggerations, insinuations, detractions, even listening to gossip and being receptive to false ideas, some of that stuff that's running around on the internet, is to perpetuate them and bear false witness. Our minds are creative by nature, and thoughts are the actions. Through the process of thoughts, our minds project our ideas into form. Our thoughts are indicative of the way we see things. Every time we make a statement, such as, "Oh, I'm poor," we are failing to keep our thoughts focused on the truth of God's presence. I am really quite wealthy. Thank you very much. In His presence is the fullness of supply for every need. Anytime we talk of poverty, we're bearing false witness against God because we're denying His presence. We're stating that there's an absence of the presence of God in our affairs. We know this can't be true. God is everywhere present. So rather than bear false witness against God, we should courageously face the condition at hand and know that it has no place or power in our circumstances, and keep our thoughts centered on God's good will for us. We can recognize challenges for what they are. Mistakes made in working a problem of supply, or mistakes caused by ignorance on our part or on the part of someone else. We look for the mistake, correct it, and go back to the principle that God is the one and only source. We declare that God is the source of all good and is present and powerful in our affairs, and then we're grateful that we have the results we desire. This is bearing witness to the truth. With the affirmation, I am truthful about the presence of God in my life. The 10th prosperity commandment is thou shalt not limit thyself by coveting that which is another's. Thou shalt claim thine own. Now this corresponds to that long list of stuff that your neighbor has and you don't want to covet. If we consider that every covetous thought is fundamentally a belief that there's not enough to go around, we can see that we're brought full circle to our first commandment. There's only one source. When we place our faith in God as our source of prosperity, we can be delighted for other people and rejoice in their good. Isn't that wonderful that they did that or have that? Because we realize that there's plenty more for us. And we can use our affirmation of, I take my eye off my neighbor's wealth and I claim my own. One of the best definitions of prosperity that I've ever encountered is that prosperity is a state wherein I am always able to do what I want to do at the instant of time that I want to do it. And right now, right this minute, all of us here are doing exactly what we want to do. You're so prosperous. Have a prosperous week. Thank you. Of course.
Prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now. Prosperity, prosperity, let me show you how. Sow the seeds of unity, grow in love and there will be prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now. Help a child fulfill a wish, teach the needy how to fish. Prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now. Look to God as source of love. You will be a channel of prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now. Prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now. Prosperity, prosperity, let me show you how. God is wisdom, life, and health. We are heirs to all his wealth. Prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now. Prosperity, prosperity, prosperity now.
Thank you. And now we take in our hands our offering, or credit card, whatever you want, the person next to you, something that represents the prosperity, and God is your source. And let us say together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And now we sing our peace song, and then we say our prayer for protection. Yeah, the prayer for protection.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now the prayer of protection.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Thank you. Have a great week.